All right, young scholars, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Which Josh do we have, J or F?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Which Josh, J or F?
Josh J.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to get started. As I mentioned, there'll be two little Zooms tonight. The first, I'll go through a short little lecture on tonight's topic, which is HTML basics. We'll take
Yo,
a
this is Joshua in my class.
we'll take a short break, then come back on the second Zoom link, and we'll go through some examples of the project I mentioned last week and some HTML basics I'll show you on the little HTML W3 Schools website I showed you guys last week. All right. So as we learned last week, HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. It's overseen by the World Wide Web Consortium, or W3, which sets the standards for them. And we'll see in a little while that they update and are now on to number 5 of HTML5. So I mentioned last week, with HTML, there are elements and tags that are used in order to display information on a web page. So you will recall these angle brackets I showed you represent a tag. So as you'll see, all tags that are open look like that, and all tags that are closed look like that. Everybody sees my screen, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So again, this would be an open tag. This would be a closed tag in HTML. So for example, this would be a title tag. All your information regarding the title would be within that tag, as we'll see a little later on tonight. So as I mentioned, HTML is updated every so often by the W3, the World Web Consortium. The best way to look at it or think of it is it's like an iPhone or an app on your phone, where every so often it's being updated. Fix new bugs, add new elements, add new functionality, make things easier for the users to use. Make sense? And, you know, these days we have Chrome, Firefox, Edge, Safari. We also want HTML to be usable in all of these different web browsers. Years ago, you would have to set your HTML up differently for it to work in Internet Explorer compared to other web browsers. So at the top of most HTML documents, you will find the document type definition, which is represented with the doc type tag. A lot of times that may not even be included in an HTML file. Years ago when you had Microsoft Front Page and I believe Dreamweaver still exists, that would automatically be at the top of an HTML web page. These days, you don't necessarily need it if you know what you're doing and just start with the HTML tag. So who can guess for me what this line of code that I've highlighted means? HTML lang equals EN. Any guesses?
You're setting the language to English.
Yep. So there's actually online a listing of all the different languages you can set this as. So you might have what's called an on-click inside of a website where, for example, you may be able to change the language from English to Spanish using an on-click. A lot of times on-clicks are used to change the size of text within a website, etc. Oftentimes within the head tag, you will find your title as well as your metadata. So here, this is just setting the type of text that will be used, which is interpreted from the web browser you use on your computer. Like I said, most of them are now standardized, as years ago, Internet Explorer had to be written completely different than others. So you notice here the body tag, open and close. What do you think goes in there? Dylan, what do you think would go in the body?
Between the body tags, that would be like the body of your web page.
Yep, the majority of all of your tags and elements will be put within the body section. So the head section usually has the title, sometimes might have your header in there as well. The body section is going to contain the majority of all of the elements of your web page. And you have a nice little HTML assignment to do later tonight or sometime before the next class, where you'll be asked what certain tags mean, and you can go through this slide or even Google them to find your information. So as I mentioned, we have a title element there within the title tag and a meta element there within the meta tag. So if you were to run this code listed here, within this text file or picture here, you would have an output hello world. That is the only thing within your body. At the top of the page, for example, here we have a web page, and at the top it gives 9523 remote as the title of the web page. This doesn't like us today. There we go. The top of that page would be my first HTML5 web page at the top, just like I showed you where the 923. See here? That is where your title shows up when you set it. So I'll show you during our second half tonight how you can change that and where it would show up. Okay, so next we have heading tags. These are basically the headers you have available to you within HTML. You'll notice that each of them is a different size, but all of them are bold. Who else is here? Rob, what do you think the difference is between each of them? Just looking at this picture.
Well, they're all different sizes, different
Yep.
text size.
Yep. The highest level header, or H1, is the biggest. And as you drop down to H2, H3, H4, H5, H6, they get a little bit smaller. Again, they're all bold, so they're used as header. Think of it, if you've ever written an APA paper for one of your classes. You would have your heading 1, which is in the center of a page. Then you would have your header 2, which is toward the left of the page. Then you'd have your header 3, which is indented a little, just like you would a paragraph. The same kind of setup here. It would all be used for different specific things. More often than not, you're primarily going to use the header 1 and usually center it to indicate that it is an important topic or a new section of your webpage. That, in conjunction with the paragraph tag, is the primary text that you'll use within your information. So it's P for paragraph instead of T for text, because you may have all different things within your paragraph tag. You can embed hyperlink references, you can embed outlines, lists, as we'll see. You can even include block text, block quotes. All different texts can go within the paragraph tag. And sometimes they'll be referred to as elements because you can include a change in color, a change in style, and we'll go through that throughout the length of the course. Then there's the BR tag, similar to a line break. There's also a special character that more or less does the same thing as a line break that I'll show you later on in the slide. It basically creates a space in between lines, or a break, if you will. So if you wanted to create 2 lines of space, you would use the BR tag to create a break in between 2 sections of code. And like I said, we'll go through this in the second half, where I'll show you examples of how all these HTML tags work. Block quote, just like you see in a usual paper, if you write it, indents an entire block of text to give it special emphasis. Either of the Joshes, on a website, what do you think is the most common thing used for block quotes?
Probably for like paragraphs and stuff, like in a website to create space in between them. So nicer and that's like better.
Okay. Other Josh, do you have any guesses?
Sorry, Professor.
Do you have any guesses as to why you would see a block quote on a website?
Sorry, Professor. I don't know, to indent. I don't know, to block something off, block the quote off.
Okay, yeah. Usually it's used for quotes like testimonials. Like if you were to go to a car dealership website, you know, they might have some block quotes of reviews of either a car or the salesman or saleswoman, or maybe even the car dealership in general. So that would be another example where you would probably see a block quote. So a lot of the common tags you might see within the paragraph tag include the B tag, the EM tag, the I tag, and the strong tag. So the strong tag and the B tag are very similar. They're both basically going to bold whatever text you apply them to. The EM tag and the I tag are both going to italicize certain text you put that within. The mark tag will highlight anything you wrap it around. The small text is going to make certain text you put it within the tag fine print, like you might see on a legal website. And then there's subscript and superscript tags. Those are very rarely used due to special characters being available. So as I said, you can put these tags within the paragraph tag. So in this example, you have call for a free quote for your web development needs and a phone number. So we have this browser display here. Why is that wrong? Does anybody know from looking at that? Dylan, any guess?
I'm guessing that maybe the phone number should be in like a different line than or maybe a different line, maybe it should be larger than the call for a free quote text.
So it shouldn't be in a different line because it has the strong tag around it. It should be bold
Yeah.
like this. Because that is the only section of your paragraph text that has strong around it.
Yep.
The whole thing will be italicized. If it was going to be on a new line, it would be inside a new paragraph like so. And then it would look like this. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Well, actually it would look like this if the code was in the right spots. So when using HTML code, you can also create different kinds of lists. The two most common are unordered and ordered. Unordered is basically used 90% of the time, and ordered lists are used when you have to put certain information into an ordered list. Like say you have a to-do list over the course of today. That's probably what you're going to use. An ordered list in order to accomplish everything you need to get through. So in an unordered list, you have the UL tag and the LI tag. UL, very simple, unordered list. LI is your list items. HTML tries to make things as easy as possible for you. So you'll see on the next slide the code that we would use in order to get this unordered list. You would utilize your UL tag, your 4 list items, TCP, IP, HTTP, and FTP, and then you would close your unordered list. You'll notice that each list item closes on its same line, and the unordered list closes after the list items are all set up. So if I added a list item here, as SMTP, Where do you think it would go? Any guess?
Bottom.
It might go underneath, it might go on top, it might go in the middle. Because it's an unordered list, it doesn't necessarily matter to us. But if we wanted to put it in order, then we would use an ordered list, which starts with OL instead of UL. And the list items remain the same with the LI tag. So in this example, we have an ordered list where first we're applying to school, then we're registering for a course, then we're paying tuition, then we're attending the course. If I were to add a list item, getting a good grade, where would that go? No guesses?
I'm guessing it would be at the bottom of the list.
Yep, it would create a number 5 since it's in order. So that's the major difference, is with the unordered list, we don't care where they go, so they might go anywhere, even if we have them in a specific order like this. But when you use ordered list, they go in exactly the order you place them. So the third type of list is quite uncommon, though you will see some of this stuff when we go through tables. So the DL tag contains the description list. The DT tag contains the description term. And the DD tag contains the description, if you will. So here's an example. Our description of IP is Internet Protocol. That's exactly what it stands for. Our description of TCP, Transmission Control Protocol. Exactly what it stands for. So we create our description list, we create our term, and then we create our description of the term. And like I said, more commonly used with tables because you can see how the output comes out where it's quite organized. Okay, so I mentioned before that we have certain special characters available to us, which is why break may not be used often. That's because this special character here, the ampersand NBSP semicolon, also produces an empty space. So you might be able to use code such as this. Within a P tag, you place that. That will do the same as a break. It will create a blank line of code to break information away. Why would you use the special character copy here? Rob, any guesses?
Indicate copyright.
Yep. So for example, Rob is going to be a star football player. He may want to create his own website and all the information is about him. He wants to make it copyrighted. So if anybody were to copy it and put it on another website, they would have to refer back to his website. Otherwise, they would be infringing on copyright laws. So think of like a website, like if somebody were to publish a book. So like, the Harry Potter books as an example. Nobody else can claim them as theirs because it's copyrighted. Same thing with a website. In addition to the break or that ampersand NBSP, there's also a div tag or element, which creates a division or divide between sections. This is commonly used, as I'll show you guys in the next slide here, where you have a certain setup on your website with a header, navigation bar, different main sections you want to break up, you would use the div tag. A lot of websites these days may not even have a navigation bar. They may just have everything up in the header or down in the footer, depending on what they want to display. Or there may be a WordPress website they use where all of that is done for them, and you may not even see the HTML code behind the background. So we learned before that the head is the beginning section of the HTML page where you put your title. The header may be the specific information. So think of a Word document. You can put, a header and a footer where you'd put certain information for your page. Your name may go in the header, the page number may go in the footer. Same thing applies to a web page. More often than not, footers are used more than headers. But within the header tag, you might have a navigation tag, which, like I said, might be a list of your links. So for example, on ESPN, you might have MLB, NFL, NBA, etc. That would be considered your navigation bar. All of that code would be within your nav tag. So again, like I said, footer would be similar to if you're using Word, the information you have at the bottom of the page. The main tag or element would go within the body section, where a lot of your information would be stored. So here's an example. You would see here that you have an H1 header, then you have a navigation with home, rooms, events, and contact. Then you have another header. You have some paragraph text. That would probably be header 2, more paragraph text. Then what I would assume would be the footer. And then you'll notice the copyright with the copyright symbol, which is most oftenly found in the footer to prevent, as I said, copyright infringement. So again, all of this would go within the body, even though you would think that the footer would go below the body. Nope. As I said, the overwhelming majority of your code is going to be right within the body tags. So there are other structural elements, such as a side element and a section element. That's commonly how your web page may be broken up. So for example, if you only wanted text right in the middle section, you would use side elements to block out and make sure there was no information on either side. There's also article elements, which are common for blogs, but the main thing you may see on a website may be a time element. A dynamic element, you'll see whatever the time is of day. You might see today's date, and it would be updated every time you go to that website, as examples. So in this example, you have a article element. Valentine wrap was posted February 1st, 2020. New coffee of the day promotion was posted January 12th, 2020. Those are article elements. Those would be two different article postings within this Bistro blog. Then you have an anchor tag, or what's called href, or hyperlink reference. You can use it different ways within the A tag. You can also use it within the P tag, paragraph. So in this instance here, we're linking a contact us page to within a URL that's right on our website. So contact.html. A common practice is to have the full URL in front of it. So for example, this might be robwalker.com contact page. The reason people do that is to make sure that, hey, even if they're playing in an HTML editor or updating it on their web page, that it links exactly to where it needs to go, because you may not be on the same server as the contact.html file. Similarly, you can open URLs to other websites that are not on your domain. So in this instance, Google search is going out to google.com. Here's another example, done completely different, all within block display or configuration. We have our href, our hyperlink reference. We have our biggest header, and then we have our text, bookmark this site for a handy HTML5 reference. Then we have our closed A tag. So what do you think is going to be linked here? Just HTML5 reference, just bookmark, or all of it? Any guesses? Don't all pipe in at once now.
So I'm sorry. So yeah, clicking the link would just lead to that href page. Like,
Clicking the link would go to this
Yep.
website. Yep.
yes.
But which part? If you click this, will it go to it? If you click to the
No.
header, will it go to it?
No. Oh,
No,
wait.
why not?
It would be the HTML5 reference part. Wait. Cause the it'll be the HTML5 reference part, right?
What else?
Oh wait, it would be all of it because it's
Yep.
has the A tags.
It would be everything because it's all within the A tag. So all of it is hyperlink referenced. So whether you click the paragraph or the header, either of them would be linked to this URL and usually open it into a separate page. That's why you'll notice here, the pointer is in the middle of them and it's still going to a website. So there's different types of links available. Like I said, absolute is going to a complete URL, whether it's on your website or a completely different website. You'll notice the complete full website URL. What do I do to this URL to make it secure, Dylan?
HTTPS.
Yep, we did an S to make sure that that's secure. And then the relative link is a link to your own site. So you could just have it be index.html. But like I showed you before, if you want to make it an absolute link, you'd complete the entire URL. Make sense?
Yes.
We can do the same exact thing with email as long as we're linking to mail to : whatever the email is. And then we usually put the email text after that in order to link it. So here's an example of how a nav bar might look. You might have a home tab, a services tab, and a contact tab. As I mentioned, there are certain validators online. Like I said last week, with HTML, more often than not, unless you really butchered it, you're going to have the web browser try and interpret whatever your HTML code is, and it will display whatever it thinks it looks like. Whereas XHTML, like I said last week, is very strict, not going to allow you to have any issues within your code, or it's not going to load properly. That's why there are different validators available online for you to use and look through. All right, and like I said, that's a brief overview of HTML. When do I have the next Zoom set up for? 6:30? All right, so let's go on a little 20-minute break. We'll come back for the second Zoom at 6:30. Like I said, I'll go over some of these links I've posted for you. We'll go over some examples of HTML. And then once that's done, probably about 7:05, we'll call it a night. All right, I will see you all back for the second Zoom at 6:30. It's in that same email with the first link.